I'm sure as fans of the series who may or may not be doom posting about Borderlands 4 online, who may be watching this, keep wondering to themselves if Borderlands 4 can be saved. And we're here today to discuss how maybe things could improve potentially in the future. Before we begin, I just want to clarify none of this in any way is meant to be mean or hostile towards the team at Gearbox. I mean, all of this is constructive feedback as a decade long fan of this series. I met a lot of devs at Borderlands Fan Fest last summer, and every single one that I met was so kind and has so much love for the series. I cannot thank y'all enough for the work you put into the series. I as well looked online and ask for general feedback from fans as well. So that it's not only things that I thought of. I made a post on Reddit on the r/Borderlands4 Reddit to get some extra ideas for this to bring forth to the discussion. Now, let's begin. True Vault Hunter mode was actually what inspired the concept of this video for me in the first place. As the way I would typically like to play through games in the series prior to Borderlands 4's release is I would like to max out my character and grind my way to the highest difficulty when applicable, such as OP10 in Borderlands 2, Mayhem 11 in Borderlands 3, and then go through a TVHM or a UVHM playthrough at the highest possible level and push myself through to see if I can do it. And in many cases, I give myself different challenges along the way. This is just personally how I like to do a lot of Borderlands play at max level. And now this is no longer an option on Borderlands 4. And no, I don't think that the mission replay system is a good substitute for this. I think we need new Game Plus or True Vault Hunter mode system. It was a staple feature through all the games, and I think that it should remain. The only other exception to this was in Wonderlands, but that's not really Borderlands, technically. However, I do agree with the sentiment that making multiple playthroughs mandatory for Endgame, just like how Borderlands 2 approached it, was bad and a wrong way to do it. But I think we should look at doing True Vault Hunter mode in a similar way to how Borderlands 3 approached it, where it's an optional way to play the game if you choose to want to play the game again in that way. And in my previously mentioned Reddit thread where I asked other people what they think should be in the game, there were a lot of people with the same ask for a True Vault Hunter mode. I know it's not as simple as just throwing it in the game, but Gearbox, there is a clear demand for this to be in the game, and I would do anything for it to get implemented. It's an overall simple win. It's a feature that will bring a lot of people into the game who may have left the game for various reasons just to do another playthrough of the wonderful campaign that you made again with their same character. It really does give a lot of replay value to the game. Hell, despite my personal issues with Borderlands 3's campaign, because of True Vault Hunter mode, I probably played through that game's campaign about 8 times in 2019 alone, just because it was a fun and simple way to just boot up the game to play. So personally, if I were to ask for just one thing in this video to be implemented, I would choose True Vault Hunter mode 100 times over. This one overall I think will be a shorter chapter because, well, I don't think there's too much to go into with this. I think Borderlands 4 needs something akin to the systems of the Circle of Slaughters from Borderlands 3, or I guess, well, Borderlands 2, and you can maybe make the argument for Underdome Riot from Borderlands 1 as well. I think overall, just having a fun, simple thing to do of just mobbing is needed. Yes, there are Ripper drill sites, but I know I'm not alone in the feeling that they don't fully scratch that same fun, chill, casual mobbing itch that things like the Slaughter Shaft are able to provide for you. Hell, I think that Borderlands 4 already has the perfect system that they can use and build upon to make more things similar to Circle of Slaughter. The Gordello world event in Borderlands 4 is a very brilliant world event. The suck, however, that once you've done it, you now have to wait for the world event to reappear. It's not something you can just keep rinsing for fun. And to be clear, I do think there needs to be much more done to make it on the same level of Circles of Slaughter from Borderlands 3. I think having many options to face different enemy types, whether it be Order, Ripper, so on and so forth, could go a long way. And maybe the way they can handle adding things like this is maybe you have to do the Gordello once through the world event, but afterwards it opens up more options and different challenges for how you can participate in the Gordello. With the recent release of our first of 2 DLC Vault Hunters, Cash, a very noticeable thing if you've played as him and tried build crafting as Cash is that all 3 of his action skills are endgame viable, with incredible builds possible behind all 3 action skills, which is fantastic and is absolutely needed. However, notably, none of the launch Vault Hunters except maybe Rafa have fully viable endgame builds with all 3 of their action skills. Of course, there will always be an action skill that maybe outperforms the other 2 and might end up being a more favorable to most people. It's just kind of how things like that will typically go. But overall, I want Cash to stay as close to as he is now as humanly possible. I, however, really would love to see Vex, Rafa, Harlow be brought up in power to be more similar on his level to overall power and strength, because Cash is just so noticeably outperforming all of the Vault Hunters except maybe Rafa. But more specifically, Amon really needs to see these buffs more than anyone else. Overall, I think we can all agree that Borderlands 4 needs a lot more in its endgame, which is coming, which is great, and I'm looking forward to what we have upcoming. Which next up, I believe, is Raid Boss 2 with Ultimate Vault Hunter 7 getting added, and following that will be our first takedown, which both of those are great steps in the right direction. I should note, for those who maybe don't know, UVH 7 will be the highest level that Ultimate Vault Hunter mode will be going to, confirmed by a developer at Gearbox. I don't think that that's a bad thing. However, personally, I'd maybe go with a 1 more with the upcoming takedown and maybe make the challenge completing the takedown on UVH 7, and that'd be the end of UVH levels at UVH 8. But I understand why it's being cut at 7. However, with all of that noted, that we are getting more endgame coming soon, I still think we need more than just that. And I'm sure much more is planned that hasn't been announced yet. I just think that for me, one major point that I know a lot of other creators in the Borderlands space have mentioned is that there should be some sort of endgame content and DLCs, even if it's literally just one invincible boss. I think that alone would add a lot. Say one hidden invincible boss in Mad Alley in the Vault of the Damned, and in another in the second story pack that is slated for Q3 of this year. I assume the reason that this is happening is Gearbox may not want to lock people out of endgame content if they don't purchase DLC, which I do see, but I don't think adding one thing like that would hurt at all. And hell, I do think you would likely get a lot more people buying those DLCs if there's something like that in there. I think there just needs to be a solid balance of having free raid bosses for anyone and everyone, then having a few in DLCs for DLC owners, giving them much more replayable content even in the DLCs. And truth be told, that model seemingly works. In Borderlands 2, I believe that every major DLC, from what I remember, has at least one invincible boss to fight in Endgame. I don't really think we should get Endgame only in paid content, but I think that you can manage both and do it well. And also, cycling back to the True Vault Hunter mode chapter from earlier, I think that getting to play the game in TVHM, you can argue, is more replayability for this exact thing. I think we're heading in the right direction with Borderlands 4 Endgame, but I hope to see more and Gearbox taking much bigger strides and leaps for this Endgame in the future, as I think that for Borderlands 4, the sky really is the limit for what they can come up with and do with the Endgame for this day. I'm very much hoping to see more raid bosses and takedowns even after these upcoming ones coming out within the next couple months. Another idea is even as simple as it is could be to have a toggle for vault bosses to become raid boss level or have invincible variants of them with the ones that we have pre-existing. I would compare this to similarly to how Borderlands 3 has the true takedowns and true trials, which are toggles that will scale the game up as if it was for a 4-player match. Yes, I'm aware that Borderlands 4 does have a Toggle set the game true mode, which sets the entire game to as if it was 4 players, which I think is fantastic, and I'm so glad that they added this. But what I'm specifically vouching for is a toggle that can make a vault monster into an invincible boss as an optional difficulty that puts them at that level. And hell, maybe even give it its own loot pool for being raid boss level, but I don't even really think that's necessary as long as their overall drop rates on better items would be buffed in this hypothetical toggle. Overall, compared to what others might think and say, I don't think that Borderlands 4 is in a completely terrible or unsalvageable state. I think that there is a lot of potential, and yes, there are definitely quite a few missteps that Gearbox has made. There's no denying it, truthfully. But I'm who's inclined to believe that Gearbox can pull it together. They pulled it together with Borderlands 3. It took a while, but they did. I believe that as long as we try to give good feedback to Gearbox and talk to them in a constructive and meaningful manner and don't just try to leave it at insults and talking about how the game is so terrible, I think that there are so many ways that we can work with Gearbox and help make the game so much better. Because for me, even as it stands right now, Borderlands 4 is probably my second favorite game in the series, and I think that there is a lot of potential for it to potentially become my favorite overall. I think that there is so much good about this game. There is so much good, and I just think that they need to tap into it and just go harder because I think Borderlands 4 really, like I said before, the sky's the limit. And I hope to see Gearbox pull some things together. I hope to see some better updates in the next few months. And I hope to see the end game get great. I hope to see character balance get better. And I'm praying for some sort of true Vault Hunter mode. Please, Gearbox, please. But overall, I think that the game could be good. Overall, I think it is good. Um, we'll just see how things go, and I hope that to see a lot of these things that I talked about in this video get implemented in the future. I would love to see how things go. Thank you for watching. This is my first video in any sort of style like this, so I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. So thank you for bearing with me towards the end here. I went off script for this conclusion bit. Everything else is pre-written, but so this is my first video in this style. So thank you for watching, and please leave down below if you're hearing this what you think could improve Borderlands 4 in any way. And please, if you're going to go online and talk about how Borderlands 4 can be better, please be constructive. Don't just demand that the game is bad and it needs to be fixed. Please communicate what you think needs to be fixed. And it will be just everything will get better. As if we I'm going to shut up. But thanks for watching and putting up with my rambling this way through. I hope you enjoyed. I hope potentially to see a lot of the stuff get implemented. But yeah, I'm going to shut up. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you all next time.